Welcome back to AI for Interiors. Today's guest is one that we've been especially excited to speak with, Guy Ailion. He's an architect, founder, CEO of Mattoboard, and partner at KSR Architects. He and his team are truly reimagining what material sampling can look like, especially with the help of AI. Guy brings an incredible depth of perspective, and I'm so excited to dive in. Guy, thanks so much for being with me today.
Thanks, Stephanie. I've been looking forward to this. You've got such a great community. I really can't wait to share a few ideas out there.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear. Okay, so just to give our listeners a background, help us understand how you got to where you are today. So you're an architect. What led to Mattoboard? What's the background here?
Okay, so yes, I'm trained as an architect and have a thriving practice based in London, mostly doing ultra high net worth individual private homes. So it's like celebrity homes or just wealthy people on islands or various parts of the world. Anything from like a construction value of 20 million to 100 million. Large, complicated projects, complicated clients. Happy to talk about that at some point too, on just dealing with that bracket, but also made for very challenging and interesting projects. And it was through, I actually studied in South Africa and my career started doing sort of barefoot luxury hotels on islands. And eventually what we learned in hospitality, we brought to residential. And many years later now, a lot of what happens in residential is actually going to hotels and hospitality. Super interesting cycle there. And I moved to London where the practice is now. And I guess this is sort of a segue into how we came to Mattoboard. I've always had an interest in design, psychology, behavior, and technology, and as they overlap. And the world of architecture and interior design gave me an opportunity to dabble in all those things, dealing with clients, dealing with complicated sites, the science behind things, selling, pitching, designing, and of course, software. So I always had an interest, and I always watched what software was doing around us. And I was always very familiar with the shortfalls of software for years, and I think we're going to talk about this. We're entering a new era of design. We're going to talk about that, which is great. But when it came to architecture, I helped carve out the interior design arm of our architecture business so we could do turnkey projects for our clients. And this is where I, as an architect, became a lot more familiar with the workflow and the ways of thinking that interior designers have and do, which is very different to architects. Of course, if you drew a Venn diagram, you'd have architecture on one side and you'd have interiors on the side. And there's a slither in between. We often refer to as architectural interiors, where our brains and our processes overlap. But actually, they're very different disciplines, totally different disciplines, different scales of ergonomics, different scales of problems, different share of client's mind to deal with. And it was fascinating to me. And we had a head of interior design who was leading it, and I was the bridge. And I became very familiar with the amount of physical sampling that was happening in the industry and how we had boxes and boxes of samples, huge files of tiny little cutout pieces of ceramic or paint or wall coverings arriving in our office, solicited or unsolicited, and we'd have to file these things and store them. And the reality was, I would observe that most people would just reach to what they could get to within arm's reach in the office. And slowly you'd have boxes of things migrating to the top and migrating to the bottom. And we'd throw away 95% of the stuff and we'd recycle them every few months. And yet when it was on the table, on that studio table, when the mixing and matching was happening, that was where the designers thrive, not in the organization of these libraries, not in the dealing with the amount of waste, which is another story we can talk about with materials and storing these things, and nor the imagination. I mean, trying to imagine an entire wall of wallpaper, looking at a tiny little like piece of wall in a catalog. It's a hard enough stretch for a designer to do that, let alone your client, right? So the system was broken, but yet on the table, the mixing and matching was where I saw interior designers thrive. It's like that is where the creative juices were brewing. That's where the flame and the spark comes in, was just this sort of happy accident moment, but at the same time having a vision and building the vision in this creative process. And I thought that design tools have never really lived up to capturing that creative flow, and that there was something about searching and discovering materials that was broken. Not just the physical industry, physically sampling and having to wait and call people for samples and get them over. And by the time they're at your office, the vision is passed, the client's moved on, or you have to then like re-scramble, or they come back to you and they're like, when I said a white vein in the marble, I actually I meant something like a lot more subtle. And now you're like, okay, have to go find another sample, order it, wait for it for 2 weeks. Manufacturer's getting like annoyed. Everything just seemed so broken. And the process online, I'll stop here and we can move on to the solution part. But the even online, the biggest problem is that designers are stuck searching for one tile and one product at a time. We think in combinations. It is the collection of materials and products that makes a mood, that makes a personality. And designers think emotionally, but you can't Google by emotion and you can't filter materials by personality. So the internet never lived up to how we think and forced us down these linear pathways. And it was that lineality, this broken physical sampling industry, the broken way that we store and file material palettes, and that was so disconnected to the beauty of the mixing and matching that I'd sort of been waiting on an opportunity to solve that. And that's where Mattoboard came along.
Yeah. Well, and I've been following you for some time, and it's been so interesting to see. It's not just that you had the idea, but you actually did something with it. And now you have a full team that is working on this day to day, and designers and other members of the industry all over the place that are signing up daily to, in my opinion, not just use Mattoboard as a tool, but also to help with the overall mission of reducing the sampling, the physical sampling. Describe what Mattoboard does day to day and what that looks like for a designer.
So Mattoboard is a visual search and design platform for interior designers. We provide unparalleled speed and accuracy to find, curate, and present your materials very, very beautifully. And one of the ways that we do this is we've created a new category called virtual sampling. And this is where we allow designers to discover materials that are in a three-dimensional state. And this means that you can move a light around it in real time and see the way that it reflects and bounces off light and texture to give you a sense of what that might feel like. Now, we can't emulate touch, and that still happens at the end of the design process, but we can get you very close to understanding the way that something feels just by you interacting with the light and you moving around, and you can see the patina and the shadows of the carpet versus a brushed piece of metal and that relationship together. So we do that in a 3D environment. It doesn't feel like one. You don't need any training to use 3D. You just search materials in our panel and you can drag and drop them into the studio table. So earlier I spoke about the magic that happens on the studio table, and that's what we wanted to recreate, was that sort of mood boarding, that material boarding process, surrounding designers with materials and allowing them to access them and place them in front of them and see them with real-time color and texture and light. So that's what Mattoboard does. The platform, you're right, we've been so lucky to have had a very strong interest from the design community. We are an early stage company, but we understand how designers think. And we're trying to build tools to support the way designers think, not the way the internet wants to work.
Right.
And so the software is evolving now. And I think you and I are going to talk about it. We have a new AI product. It's called Design Stream. This will be the first time talking about it on your podcast. Very excited. And it really is about capturing the way that designers think and creating a tool that helps us do, in many ways, what I told you I saw was the problem was that we think very linearly and we're forced to go down one product at a time, when we actually want to think emotionally, we want to think in palette, we want to think in vision and mood. And Design Stream is going to allow you to do that, not to search for individual materials at a time, but to search for personality and feeling and character.
Okay, tell us more.
Okay, should we go straight into that?
What does that look like? Yes.
Okay, maybe before I do it, it might be just interesting just to understand the psychology of how designers think. So I hope this isn't going to go too off topic, but it's been interesting to me for years. I've always, when I looked at interior designers and even as an architect, I've always thought that we were what I used to call ventral and dorsal thinkers. And what I meant by that was we have this part of our brain, it's called the ventral stream. Scientists call it the what pathway. And what it means is that it's the pathway that our brains take from our visual cortex, sits like right at the back of the brain, and it moves to the temporal lobe right in the front. And it's called the what pathway because that ventral stream is how designers can identify what objects are. So when I say designers, I mean humans. It's how we identify that is a chair. And that chair is not the fridge. It's not the poof on the floor, and it's not the carpet. We identify objects in this way. And there's another part that runs parallel to that in our brain called the dorsal stream. And the dorsal stream they call the where pathway because it's the part of our brain that understands where things sit in a room, in a space. That is near the wall. This is closer to me. That is further away. And there are two different like pathways in the brain. There are some overlaps, but best way to think about it is two different pathways. One that controls like identifying objects, one that controls where things are. That's our world, right? That's what you and me do for a living is we try become masters of taste to do with our identifying what objects should go where and how to put them together in a space and why you should move that over there and this over there. Like that's actually the part of the brain that interior designers use, whether they know it or not. They're using those two and they become experts at that. So I've always found that very fascinating. What's been so interesting around us is that AI is starting to understand and being trained in similar ways to the brain. And so they've trained AI to do spatial recognition, the dorsal side of things. And they've trained AI to also understand visually how to compartmentalize, segment imagery, identify what an object is. They're using the brain to train how the AI works. And so AI is getting very good at what they call visual reasoning, understanding imagery. Now, it doesn't have the ability to imagine and evolve taste in the same way we do, but it can look backwards and make decisions backwards. And this is, to me, madly exciting for interior designers because I think it's going to be an unbelievable creative multiplier for us. And so Design Stream actually comes out of this understanding of how the designers think. I guess now you understand why we call it Design Stream.
Yes, I love that.
And so we're going to harness at least the power of AI, not to be an inhibitor, but to be a sort of a creative workhorse for designers. So what does Design Stream do? Design Stream allows you to provide an input. So it's a prompt, it's an image, it's something that you're looking for. You describe it. It could be based on your description of a feeling or a mood or a character, and maybe an image reference that you like. And the goal of Design Stream is to get you from that idea to a palette, and ultimately from that palette into building out your vision. And this is for us to stop you from having to go and hunt for one product at a time to build your palette. We want to be able to understand what you are trying to achieve. I'm looking to create and let's use some language here. Like I'm looking to create a mid-century modern downtown funky restaurant, and it's based in New York. And this is some inspirational imagery. Design Stream will understand that you're in New York. You need things delivered to New York. You need materials that are sourceable in New York. It will understand all the specs, all the technical data, that it's a commercial project you're doing. You're going to need sort of a certain level of slip resistance on fire-rated products. None of that should get in the way of you building a visual idea, which it does, right? We go through tabs and scroll through PDFs just to understand if a product's right. And all of that gets in the way of us just building visual like imagery. It will understand all of that, but then it will also understand what you're trying to achieve by your description of taste and your reference images. It will then build a palette of materials for you. And you can then go through those palettes and be like, really like that. But this terrazzo is very interesting. And actually, I don't like this material, but this one works for my client. And then you can start at that point, build your board and start to iterate. So we want to get you from idea to a palette as quick as possible within minutes. So you can start iterating and go through your creative flow and not spend hours sourcing, reading specs, hundreds of tabs, looking at multiple websites for your materials. You should be able to say what you're looking for, and we'll start you off with a palette of materials and options and alternatives. So that's what Design Stream will do when it launches.
That's pretty incredible. I can't wait to see it.
It feels that. It feels that way.
Yeah.
We're using it now. Actually, if anyone in your audience is interested in testing it, we have like an AI council. It's just professional interior designers who are interested in helping to shape these tools. And we're currently flighting it with them. But it is very exciting, and it feels like a magical moment where you can just get started quicker.
Well, and I think I'm thinking in terms of the process, there are some projects that we instinctively already know, okay, I need this, and this. But there are a lot of projects too, where we have a little bit of a writer's block or a design block in our world. And having a tool like that to get started and get the ideas flowing, and then you get in the flow and are able to execute the design and refine it, I think could be really valuable.
Yeah. So I'm totally in sync with that. I think search is a roadblock for designers today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, the blank canvas means that you have to go and start Pinterest and
Mm-hmm.
start searching and go through different manufacturers. And I think it kills creative flow, that kind of working.
Yeah.
And Design Stream has the ability for you to not only just provide that image, but if you don't have that image in mind, or you want to get creative and you have like two that are totally incongruent and you just want to see like what happens if I mix these two together. So you can actually use Design Stream as a way to jumpstart that spark phase and just get started quicker. You could even, we've run some tests now with Design Stream, which are remarkable, where you provided a picture of some form of inspiration that is not interior design and drop in a
Like an
painting
outfit, a fashion or
an
something.
outfit, a painting of Dali or a painting your client has, for example, or just
Mm-hmm.
something you find very beautiful, inspirational, and ask it to help you procure this into a material palette and so that you can get started like actually building out a vision for yourself. And the difference here is like, I think what we've seen is we refer to this in-house as fictional AI versus practical AI. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe that interior designers, professionals, don't want fictional AI. We are getting tired of this AI slop and imagery that falls apart very, very quickly when it comes to being able to source materials, to actually the buildability of these things. And we actually want we want AI to be practical for us, tools that enhance our ability, make us faster, allow us to do less administrating, more creating. And that's really the focus that we're on. We want AI to be that amplifier. And so Design Stream brings you real products, real manufacturers, really fast, so that you can actually go and source and start to experiment and have AI as sort of a practical tool for creative working. So you can get back to what you like to do, which is the magic of mixing and matching and building out these moods and building stories. Like designers are amazing storytellers. And so Design Stream will help you craft those stories too.
That's amazing. My mind goes to the technicalities of how long did it take to get it to this point? And I can't even imagine the back end of it, which may be boring to everyone else, but I'm fascinated by. But
I won't share too much of the background because it can get so technical. And
yeah,
I think as designers, we're just more interested in the output being successful.
right.
But what we've seen is that there are so many tools out there that I believe are designed for design industries where you don't know what you want. And that's why they can generate like magical things that you look at. And, most people are like, wow, it can design my whole room for me in a moment. And that's really because those people didn't know what they really wanted.
Right.
Know what they want. And if they don't know in the moment, they'll know immediately after they see something, instantly. They'll instantly be like, aha, okay, now I have an idea what I want, and that is not it, or it is it, but I need to change it. The design tools today fall short for professionals because the minute you want to control things, the minute you want to change an outcome or iterate, you might want to change a chair on one piece of software using AI, and it will end up changing the ceiling above and the chair. And that's so annoying, right? Because you've lost control.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So in short, I think we're moving away from what you call a prompt era of AI tooling to a control era, where now we are able to control these models with the right sort of UI and the right interface. And that's really what we're doing behind the scenes with Mattoboard, is we're trying to provide more control for a professional field of industry.
Yeah. I love it. I'm so glad that you're taking the initiative and leading
Thanks.
it because those ideas need to be implemented and will be so useful to the design industry for years to come. So that then leads me to AI in general, because Design Stream wouldn't be necessarily as possible if AI weren't so
Yes.
relevant today. What are you seeing in AI in general? You know, what tools are you using in your daily workflow, and how are you utilizing it?
So I think, of course, generally speaking, AI is going to be an unbelievable, maybe one of the greatest lost human creations, because everything after this will have AI in it.
Right.
And so it will be inextricably linked to anything else that we ever create. But what's interesting, and we're only going to talk about it from our lens as designers. And I think that,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, AI is certainly not here to replace designers. It's here to amplify taste. Taste, I think, is consistently an evolving thing. And so there is going to be our ability to create good taste is going to be amplified. And so actually, I think the evolution of interior design is going to be very interesting because good taste will be on tap for us, right? We'll be able to create that. And so we're going to be more interested in creating things that are nuanced, that are extremely individualistic, extremely personalized to people, to couples. We're going to merge styles and formats together. And we're going to constantly create new versions of taste. And so anyone who talks about like, oh, taste is gone and taste makers are gone. No, that is an evolving thing. It's humans decide really what that is. And so it will be constantly evolving. And I think that it's going to help us be better tastemakers. I think also designers don't think in single products. We think in stories, we think in moods and combinations. And AI is going to learn to help us understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, our vision is that we want to go from idea to palette to vision in one uninterrupted stream.
Mm-hmm.
What tools are we using today? We're using, I know in practice, designers are using a lot of image generation tools. So these are things like Midjourney,
Mm-hmm.
and more recently Nana Banana. And if people haven't heard about Nana Banana, it does sound like a cereal, but it's just a brilliant marketing name. If you think about like ChatGPT and their models are called like, really not well marketing and not good marketing, whereas Google have come out with theirs and they've given it this ridiculous name of a cartoon character of some sorts, but it's been great. Anyway, Nana Banana is part of this new era of control, where you can start to change things. So I think that's being used a lot. And I think everyone is sort of really scrambling to use image generation tools like Flux or Krea, as well as Midjourney to produce content. Our mission is less on the generative side because I think that is going to be slowly commoditized, meaning it's going to get easier and better, which is going to be great for all of us. Less Photoshop, less learning real-time rendering, less ray tracing for us to do, less 3D modeling for us to do. Our focus is less on that. I think that's happening. Ours is about how to bring these things together in one platform that understands the core thinking of designers, interior designers, what makes us think, what makes us tick, and how do we create practical AI tools, not fictional ones, all under one roof. That's kind of our big vision here. It's sort of a world where every designer has an AI co-pilot with Mattoboard and Design Stream, so that design feels a little bit more like design. I remember being trained as an architect with drawing boards and pencils and like 50 different line weight pens. And I remember eventually when like Autodesk and Revit came to the university and started to peddle their new technology, which was unbelievable and emancipating. You could do amazing things. It came with a lot of restrictions in terms of the early stages of design, being able to iterate quickly. You couldn't do it in the same way you could do with a pen. You couldn't quickly sketch out a really bad looking blob, but your client knows that's their room. And you say, that's where your TV will be. That's where the bed will be. And they're like, oh, I really don't like that. And you're like, okay, we just quickly move the bed over there. And they can understand this little blob of yours. This is like instant real-time feedback. Computers came along, they gave us so many amazing, powerful tools, but they slowed down so much of that hand-to-hand, hand-to-eye coordination that harnesses that part of our brain we were talking about that interior designers are so good at. And they kind of took a little bit of that magic away from us. But the tools were so good and so speedy at doing the technical and logistical and delivery part of it that it became all consuming for us. And what's so interesting now about AI and the image generation and this visual reasoning that it's doing is it's going to get us back to that ability to iterate and experiment instantly, and do it in ways that we have to use computers to do for hours, to build out a rendering. So I often refer to the fact that I think the biggest shift that's going to happen in our industry as designers is that leading up to this point, we would draft to visualize, meaning that we would do the draft work. Like we would do the plans, we would create the models, we would do the Excel spreadsheets, we'd do all the sourcing of materials, we build out our spreadsheets, we create the 3D renderings, we do the ray tracing or outsource it, whatever we could do. We would do all the drafting to visualize what we wanted, which is like really such a sad way, because we want to be able to create those visions quickly and then draft and build out.
Right.
And I think that flip is about to happen to us. We're going to go, instead of from a draft to visualize, we're going to go to a visualize to draft world. We will see what we want instantly, change it, iterate, experiment, deviate. And then when we're happy, we will start drafting towards the buildability and execution level. So it's going to be the right way around. And that's a really beautiful thing that I think is going to happen to us, is to move from that visualize to draft. Because we live in a world, what I call the great creative mess, where when we design and we move from like blurry idea through to like curating the right products and the right materials to drafting it out and visualizing it and pitching it and selling it to our clients, we have like all these discards and deviations, which are quite literally crumpled pieces of paper on the wall, or materials, or PowerPoint presentations, 1, 2, 3, final 2, final 6. Those are our discards and deviations, but that's the workflow. That's the process. That's what being creative is so nice. Like that's the best part. And we're going to be able to do that at the vision stage, just brainstorming, coming up with ideas, seeing it, our clients interacting with it. It's going to be an amazing time. But that's what we're focused on.
Yeah, that was such an insightful and easy to understand way to describe it. I haven't thought about it in that reversal idea. And it made me think, with AI, we have the ability to say, go to Mattoboard, create an initial concept, get the idea out of our head and onto a board, and then create a visual off of that, which could then be turned into a line drawing using AI, which then could be converted into a drawing file, whether that's AutoCAD or Revit or SketchUp. And you're that much faster in getting to the end result, but you're using the creativity at the forefront and then turning it into a technical, which, like you said, right now, a lot of times we're heavy in the technical in order to get the visual. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, I think that's what's exciting. That's what's ahead of us. All those things will converge.
Yeah.
And also, just to be very clear about Design Stream AI, is that it is a private beta at the moment. So if someone goes to mattoboard.com, they are more than welcome to start immediately using our creator, which is where you can design 3D mood boards, and you can access our library and you can start immediately there. And you can download in hyper-realistic, photorealistic mood boards. But Design Stream is in a private beta. So definitely reach out to us if you want to take part in that. We'd love to share it with people, but it will be private for now.
And I can attest to the fact that they really do want to share it, because I have a meeting with your team next week to go through my account and see the beta version of Design Stream. So, okay, with that, as we wrap up, I'd love to just take a second and see what advice you would give to designers. So what's one small step that designers could take today to explore AI in their work?
So the first thing I would say is drop the fear, if you have any. Totally drop it. If you think it's going to steal your ideas, if it's going to take away from the magic of what makes you who you are, drop that, because the head of NVIDIA, who is a chip manufacturer that make a lot of the processing power, that they supply the processing power behind a lot of these models. He said that it won't be AI that takes your job, but it will be people who understand AI that will take your job. That's going around a lot, and it's very true. This is an unbelievable moment, and regardless of your technical skill, really regardless of your technical skill, it has the ability to aid and help you. At the end of the day, most of them today are what they call LLMs, and that quite literally stands for large language models. And so they're mostly built on their ability to communicate with language. The visual stuff is happening. It's not so much at the forefront, but even the image generation, it's based on your ability to talk and describe your language. And so I'd say they're very easy to adopt. And I'd say the first steps are to try out some of the Google Suite tools. This is the first time I've been asked that question, so it's the first time I'm trying to think about it. But the reason is Google are offering so many tools for free. especially if you're a Google user. And I'm assuming most people here have a Gmail, which means they have access to experiment and try some of these tools. So type into Google search, and hopefully it'll be the last time you use Google to search for things. But type into Google search like Google AI Studio or AI Suite of tools. See what they've got available and just start experimenting. It's low barrier. It's just your language. Get a feeling for it. Drop the fear. It can be amazing for you. And then, of course, sign up to Mattoboard.com because we're going to make the tools that are appropriate for you.
Yes. Yes. I completely agree. I feel like this conversation was such just a starting point, just gave a taste of what Mattoboard is and what all you're working on. I'd love to have you back at some point and dive even deeper. And then as all of it evolves, that we can dive in deeper and talk more. Two things that we didn't get to talk about, but I want to touch on really quick are the survey and then small huge. So with the survey, tell us a little bit about what that is and how people can get involved there. And then also small huge, because I just think it's cool.
Okay, awesome. So for the survey, that's like really, really simple. I'm just going to call up the URL for you now. But for the survey, we are gathering information from professionals in interior design industry on how they use AI today and what they believe it will be able to do for them in the future, everything from what they're worried about to what they're excited about. And the survey includes everything from like how to do better rainmaking, how to price bid, how to do more creativity, how to administrate better. So we're gathering all of this, and anyone who participates in the survey will then get the information back. But you won't just get the raw data. We are going to package it into something palatable as what we call a state of AI for the business of design, specifically around interior designers. And so we'll produce this report, and the report will go back to everyone who has taken part in it. We have hundreds of people who have filled that out already. And so if you want to get the report, we would love your contribution. It takes about 7 to 10 minutes to complete. It's really quick. It's stuff you all know already. So if you go to Mattoboard on Instagram, so it's Instagram/Mattoboard, go to the link tree and you'll see the Business of AI for Design report. Click on that, fill it out, and we'll send it over your way when you're done. So that's
perfect.
That's
and I'll
the survey
link
side.
that in the show notes as well.
Okay, cool. So small, huge.
Yes.
Okay. Throughout my life, I have been very interested in designing, creativity, behavior and psychology, and like technology and mindset. So those sort of three things: creativity, psychology, and design. And it's the Venn diagram, like where they overlap together, that's I've always found very, very interesting. And I used to read a lot of psychology journals and design work, and I've worked with a lot of people. And what I would land up doing is I try and distill these ideas, observations, lessons that I'd seen or read or discovered into one-liners because I could remember them. And I would always share them with friends, dinner tables, with colleagues, if I was mentoring at the RCA or students. And I would share these one-liners to help people understand a solution to something. And everyone would always come to me years later and say, "Oh, I remember that you said that the frame is more important than the picture, guy." And it's just always changed the way that I look at things. And I thought, okay, well, I might as well collect all these little one-liners. And so I have a micro newsletter for interior designers called smallhuge.com, where I collect small ideas that have a huge impact on design, creativity, and psychology. And I squeeze them into a 1-minute micro email. So if you're interested in those sort of things, I'm happy, just go to smallhuge.com and I'll send them to you, their friends, families, colleagues, etc.
That's so fun. I love that you do that. I was just fascinated by it. Yeah, you're a captivating personality, and you have so many things that you are working on, and it's just so fun getting to know you. So thank you so much for being with me today. I really
appreciate the opportunity. I love the design community, and I love that we're building a company to serve them. especially in one of the most creative and inspiring times. I think I said it to you before. I genuinely believe there's no better time to be a designer. And we want to make sure that with all this amazing magic and amazing software that's happening around us, someone is there to pull it all together to serve this community. That's what we want to be. So we'd welcome anyone who wants to help us make that happen.
Okay, we'll join you. We're in.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks for being with us, Guy.
Amazing questions. Thank you so much.